So do you want the ultimate vacuum advance video? Stay tuned because you're going to get it. It is unlike anything else. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So when I make the claim of being the ultimate vacuum advance video, that means that is pretty serious territory, because there've been some good videos put out on vacuum advance. But for me, making it the claim of the ultimate, it's got to be over the top. So let's first talk about vacuum advance and what it does. Vacuum advance is not a new thing. Check this out. I have two books here on the hood of Casper that are very near and dear to my heart. One is this motor tune-up manual right here from 1946. My granddad gave me this, and it was like literally one of my first auto mechanic books that I ever got. So let's see what it says about vacuum advance. Because 1946, you think they know a lot about vacuum advances? I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to read you what it says right here. When the engine is operated under part throttle, there is vacuum in the intake manifold, and consequently the charge taken into the cylinder is not so highly compressed. Lower compression means a lower rate of flame spread in the cylinder as spark occurs. With lower compression in the cylinder, the spark must enter the cylinder earlier in the cycle so that the mixture can be ignited, burned, and give up its power to the piston. If the spark occurs earlier in the cycle, that is, if there's some additional spark advance, full burning of the charge and maximum economy is achieved. Now check that out. This is 1946. So let's think about this in modern day terms. This is a vacuum advance canister off of a Mallory distributor. In the modern day world, your ECM computer controls your timing, correct? And when you build a high performance engine that's fuel injected, what do? You go and get a tune put in the computer, and it changes the timing curve appropriately like it's needed. Guess what? This does the same thing as what your computer does in your car, late model car. It provides additional spark advance based off of the needs of the engine. Okay, now the key is the tune is being able to adjust this to give the engine what is really required. And so when I first got into talking about vacuum advances and trying to figure out how to make them work, I was clueless. You know, I would hook it up. You always hear the terms ported and manifold. Well, first of all, you need to understand why is there two choices. Okay? Going back to, consequently, around 1970, 68, 70, 71, it was discovered that the vacuum advance all had manifold vacuum up until that point. It was discovered that by having the vacuum advance on a manifold source created higher emissions. So thus, you get into a quandrum. If you give up your fuel economy by going to a ported vacuum source, you're going to get better emissions. And if you go to ported, your drivability is going to be reduced. So you need to understand that getting good fuel economy is not always conducive to emissions. They're two separate entities. Ported and manifold vacuum is not really too much of a debate, because prior to 1968 everything was manifold vacuum. But to talk on the subject a lot more, I'm going to let you hear the guy that taught me how to set up vacuum advance. That's David Vizard. Okay, so here I am at David's shop. Hey David, you around?
Yes, hey, how you doing?
Good. Hey man, so I just started a video a while ago.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is the one and only David Vizard.
Well,
he is like...
I have a cousin up in
yeah.
David Vizard.
I hear you.
He's got my email address, damn it.
So, David, what I'm doing is I did a video outside talking about vacuum advance of distributors, and I want to tell the story about how using your method I was able to get like 35 to 40% more fuel economy out of my truck. Okay, so I'm sitting here with my good buddy and mentor David Vizard, and this right here has probably one of the most misunderstood stories in history in the world of hot rodding. But if you get this right, you can take your hot rod that's getting single-digit fuel economy, and believe it or not, you can get better fuel economy than some of these late model cars that are out here on the road today. And David is the man that's going to tell you how to do that, because I applied his theory and trust me, it works. David, tell me about how do you use this with this to get good fuel economy? History with vacuum advance goes way back.
Yeah, right. Now, I've always understood, because it was common knowledge back then. You know, I got into the motor racing business in 1960, right?
Yeah.
Most of the people listening to this weren't even born.
Right. Well, I wasn't either, so I'm part of that.
So the thing is vacuum advance was, the need for vacuum advance was accepted as normal technology. Now,
right.
There was some engines that didn't use it. For instance, the stock Cooper S only used mechanical advance. That's because they wanted to bring the car out before Lucas had got a distributor that would do the job.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people raced with just the Cooper S distributor. I did. Because on a road course with a Mini, you're very rarely off the throttle, and fuel mileage is not an issue.
Right.
Right? So it got to be, well, race engines don't use vacuum advance.
Right.
Well, guess what? When you're in a traffic jam, that's a little different to rushing down the straight at Brands Hatch or Silverstone.
Oh, absolutely.
Not quite the right engine situation, right? So the thing is I would tell people, yes, that's right. Most race engines don't have vacuum advance.
Yeah.
Then, you know what? Nearly every damn successful race engine these days has vacuum advance. When that yellow flag comes out, you want fuel economy.
Right.
The only way you're going to get it is to have the advance that the engine wants. Not what you think you're going to give it.
Right.
Right? When I have somebody walk in that door and they say, well, I want this for my engine, and that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's not what you want.
It's what
the engine wants.
That's right.
Right? And
let me tell you this little story. So when I first met David, we got on the topic somehow or another talking about vacuum advance, and he told me this method to use to set up a vacuum advance. And I'm sitting there listening to this thinking, it's so simple, it's like it's just smacking you in the face. And it involves using one of these right here. So David, tell everybody how we can get into the ballpark of plotting out a graph of what your engine needs using this and a level piece of road.
Well, the biggest obstacle is the level piece of road.
That's right, especially where we're at.
So you may have to do a little bit of fudging in your reading of what you're doing, but you'll get a very good idea.
And you need a good buddy too.
Yes. I mean, these days I do it all on a dyno where I can set the load
of the dyno
precisely, and then
the speed, everything.
what timing and carburetor adjustments gives the least fuel consumption.
Right.
Right, but let's say we're just an average guy and we've got a straight piece of road and we've got a relatively streetable cam in the engine, right?
Right.
I'm not talking about
An all-out race car.
no. We're talking about a street strip type
Yeah.
cam, probably 280, 290
Yeah.
degrees to your
Put it
engine.
to you this way, the method works on my truck and you know what kind of engine that is.
Yeah, that's like
It's up at the upper end of the scale though.
that's a 9/10 racing engine.
Yeah. It's
Right.
just disguised as a sheet. Don't pay it any attention.
So what you do is set the cruise control.
Your foot.
Well, this is the way I do it. Now, this, Andy's got variations on this, and I think by the time he's finished what he's doing, he'll have more experience doing this than I do. That's because I've got access to a dyno more often than he's got.
Yeah,
one,
that's right.
His dyno testing time is only a fraction of what.
It's like probably a 100th or maybe 1,000th of
Well,
his.
yeah, but now what you do is go down the freeway with just a mechanical advance, and you've got the vacuum advance hooked up to this.
Have a long piece of vacuum hose running
This,
inside the cockpit of the
Mighty,
car.
is this a Mighty?
It
Vac?
is. It's a mighty vac.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you do is you set the cruise control
There you go.
and look at the vacuum you've got on your vacuum gauge. But you need a vacuum gauge. Right?
Yeah. One
I've
running
got a
from the
fairly-
carburetor with a vacuum
yeah,
gauge, and
I've
then
got a
this.
big one.
Yeah.
Right, it's like this. And you will slowly pump or suck the air out of the vacuum can.
While you're trying to maintain a steady speed of say 30 miles an hour.
The
Yeah.
cruise control should do
Yeah,
that.
cruise control.
Right? And what you do is you keep on pulling this advance in, right? And of course, if it makes more horsepower, the cruise control will close the throttle.
That's right.
So the vacuum on the vacuum gauge goes up.
That's right.
So you keep on sucking in advance on that distributor until the vacuum gauge won't go up anymore.
That's
and
right.
starts actually dropping.
Then
you
you
stop.
note that.
You note what that vacuum is. You note what the vacuum is here.
The RPM that you're traveling at.
Yep. And you write that down.
You write
Now,
it down.
after you've done that for several points, you take your vacuum can and you look at the advance. Get on a distributor machine or
Yeah,
whatever. You
distributor
look at
machine,
the
or you
advance.
can do it with a timing light.
Yep, you can. You look at the advance. Well, wait a minute. You can do the mechanical with the timing light, but the vacuum.
You can do it with it. You sit there and watch it and bring it back up to the RPM that you were.
Yeah. Right. And see actually how much advance it required to go down the
That's
freeway
right.
at say 50 miles an hour in high gear. You'll probably find that it's about 40 degrees. Some engines it could be more. If the engine has a really good burn, right, the combustion efficiency is high, it could be as high as 50 degrees.
That's right.
And people say, it's going to detonate. Well, no, it's not. You're barely filling the cylinder.
That's right.
Right? Now
It's under no load.
Here, let me say something here, Andy, that most people don't know about.
Yeah, this
Right.
is good stuff here.
People assume that if the mixture's weak, you're going to melt the engine down.
Right.
Well, that's only if it's a little bit too weak.
Yeah.
If you start getting really, really high mixture ratios, i.e. a lot of air for not much fuel, like
Yeah.
on our mini engine, we got up to 22 to 1.
That's right.
Right? The combustion was so cool because there was such a little amount of fuel used, you could almost put your hand in there.
Right.
Right? The combustion temperature dropped, I can't remember what it was, but it was something like 400 degrees. You aren't going to melt a piston or that.
No, there's no way.
And it's not going to detonate because the octane requirement for that
It's
is
down so
probably
low.
60 or 70 octane. It'll run on kerosene.
Yeah, run on
Right?
kerosene.
That octane is when you put your foot on the gas and the vacuum goes away.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
So-
exactly right.
That's how you get your vacuum advance. And what you do is you build a curve
Yeah.
for it, and then you call performance distributors, and they will go through all their cans
Yeah.
and see what's nearest one.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that if they don't have the exact thing and you're really hyper-fussy, it's like me,
Yeah.
right, that they can fudge one so that it does what you require, but it costs
Right.
a lot more money.
Right. Now what I did on my truck for personal reference, going down the road I chose 30 miles an hour as one reference point. I did it again at 50 miles an hour and then at 70 miles an hour. And the reason why you do that is because the engine is under different loads at that different speed, so you can get a better understanding and idea of what's required, and you will see it.
What were the vacuum figures that you, or the
Lord.
advanced figures that you required for those?
I'm at nearly 50 degrees. It's like 48, 50 degrees.
At 50?
Yeah, 50 miles an hour.
And you
And
did it 50, 60, and 70?
yeah,
What was it at 70?
it'll actually go more. It can take more. It'll go up to probably
Really?
about 51.
You got a
52.
pretty healthy sized cam in that motor.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah. But your vacuum advance now suits your engine.
That's right. It's not a canned tune.
Yeah.
It is
and by the way, good viewer, I got to drive Andy's truck. You can start off in high gear.
Yeah, he put it through the paces. He was able to take off from high gear at a stop sign, and you can watch that video. I'll put a link to it right up here. You see, you'll see it, and you can watch David actually drive my truck, and you'll see the kind of drivability that we're talking about. So what's the whole point of all of this? For 90% of you guys out there, gals, who have a hot rod, by just throwing this away and not using this or not hooking it up, you're giving up 35 to 40% of your fuel economy.
And wearing your board and rings up
Yes,
faster.
that's the most
And-
important thing.
And polluting the world.
Right, because when you're running those really rich mixtures, that accelerates bore wear.
Andy, ported vacuum versus manifold vacuum.
Okay, that's one of my favorite topics.
Right.
That's one of the
Now
biggest arguments on the world.
Let's clear all the bullshit here, right? Ported vacuum only exists because of emission regulations.
Bingo.
Right. I was in the era when ported vacuum came in and had to develop ignition systems and or engines that required to have certain circumstances and regulations met. The biggest problem we had back in the day was that at idle with manifold vacuum, the throttle was closed so much that to get the charge to burn, you had to have it richer. Now, this doesn't mean you had more fuel. What it meant was it was richer. Still less fuel than you would have had if you didn't have any vacuum
Right.
advance. Well, this caused a lot of emissions at
That's
idle.
right.
So, to cut this, what the idea was that if we open the throttle and let more air in, we will have a more combustible mixture.
Right.
But now we've got a 3,000 RPM idle.
Right.
How do you get rid of that? You retard the ignition,
Bingo.
right? So you don't want ported vacuum, you don't want manifold vacuum at idle. The only way to get around it is to have ported vacuum. That is, no vacuum hits that distributor until the throttle is opened.
Right.
It's not at idle anymore.
That's right.
Right? As soon as that ported vacuum, as soon as that butterfly passes that ported vacuum deal, it might as well be manifold vacuum because that port's connected to the manifold.
That's right.
All you are doing with ported vacuum is preventing the engine from having enough ignition timing to have such a low air requirement that the mixture is too rich for clean combustion, right? Every engine these days, hot rod engine, should have manifold vacuum and
Bingo.
a really good distributor and ignition system which lights off the charge. Now I'll give you an example here. Back in the day, typically 12.5 to 13 to 1 mixture ratio at idle,
Right.
showing 18 to 20 inches of vacuum was it.
Yeah.
These days, with what we've got going now and getting everything just right, I can run 15 to 1.
That's exactly where
That
my
I-
truck runs. And one other side benefit that we haven't even touched on, when you have a high compression street engine, guess what? It wants to run hot, right? Well, when you have a vacuum advance hooked to manifold vacuum and you're giving it additional time, and guess what? It runs a lot cooler at idle.
Yeah.
It actually solved an overheating issue by having this on my truck. So just another point to have it.
Do we have anything else to tell these guys
Uh-huh.
except anything that they can have in part 2?
I don't know, but you need to check out part 2. I don't know when we're going to get to it because we've got to get our engine to the dyno. But I promise you, everything that we've just talked about, you're going to get to see it in practical terms in real life. And we will show you that next time on Unity Motorsports Garage. This is Andy. That's David Vizard, the legend. Catch you later.